Are you curious about the kindergarten curriculum choices that other homeschool moms have made? I'm Leslie Maddox, and I am here to satisfy your curiosity. I'm a Christian homeschool mom of 3 very active little boys in grades kindergarten, 2nd grade, and 5th grade. My goal is to help overwhelmed homeschool moms move from that stage of feeling like they're just surviving homeschooling and move on to feeling like they're thriving in homeschooling. Today, I hope to do that by sharing with you not just our curriculum choices for kindergarten, but the why behind my choices. Because sometimes I think that it's the why that is the most helpful. It is very interesting to learn about new curriculum by looking at these videos, but why do people choose specific things, and why do they think it's going to work for them? That's what I want to share with you today. Before jumping into the specifics of our choices, I just want to remind you to consider your own local homeschool laws. If you live in the United States, you can look at hslda.org. That's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. I'll put a link down below. Go to that website. I think on the home page there's a link where you can drill down to your particular state and see what your local laws are. And this is important because you and I may be working toward a different set of requirements. Where I live, homeschooling, the local laws are very free, and you may have a different situation. You may have subjects that you're required to cover that I'm not required to cover. You may need to keep track of documentation or work with someone in particular, or you may even need to have a certain number of hours a day that you homeschool or do testing. So be sure to check out your local homeschool laws. Be informed so that you protect your family by staying legal in your homeschooling. Now that we've covered that, let's go on to our particular choices. I'll start off with morning work. For morning work, this is the first year that my kindergartner has done morning work. This is something I've had my older boys do, but this is his first year. For him right now, morning work consists of just filling in a date on the calendar. I'm trying to get him very familiar with how a calendar works and referring to a calendar for the date. So he has a responsibility each morning to update our wall calendar with the current date, and then to just fill that in on his calendar page for morning work. It's very simple, it takes like a minute. I may also add to the morning work in years past. For my older boys, I've had them learn personal information via morning work, like phone numbers, my husband's phone number, my phone number, our address, their birthdays. So I may add to that later on as the year progresses, just to get them to learn some new things. Morning work is the place where I kind of put that stuff where I really don't know where else to put it, but it's important to do. But I'm going to wait on that probably at least until after Christmas. So that's our morning work. The next subject I'll cover is Bible. Now, before I tell you what we're using for Bible, let me just explain something. I know that a lot of homeschoolers don't like to do Bible in schoolwork because then it's treated like it's a school subject, and it's not just a school subject. It's so much more important than that. And I agree. You know, I'm a Christian, and I believe that reading the Bible is very important for everybody. I believe that everyone should read and study the Bible for themselves and not rely on someone else to read and interpret it for them. And I believe that for my boys as well. I'm training them up to understand that and to read the Bible for themselves. Because I think it's so important, I'm including it in the work that they do each day. Because the way I see it, I include the work that they do each day because I'm training them. I'm not just giving them schoolwork to do. I'm training them to identify the things that they need to learn, and then go about planning to learn it, and then go about and learn it. So I don't just include typical school subjects in the list of work that they do each day. I include things like chores. If there's some therapy, like speech therapy, or for my youngest, like patch therapy, he has vision therapy that he does, I include that in the work to make sure that we get it done. I do the same thing for myself. I have a to-do list for myself each day to remind me of the important things that I want to get done that day. So that's why I include Bible here, because it's important, and I want him to see it as that and to get in the habit of reading his Bible each day. All right, now that I've given you that disclaimer, I'll share with you that for Bible, he's reading, or we're doing shared reading with a beginner's Bible as a storybook. Bible, and it's my very favorite one to use out of all the ones, and I have several. Out of every Bible storybook that we've used, this is my very favorite one. Some of the Bible devotionals that we've used, I feel the stories added too much to the stories, that the authors added too much to the stories. And it also doesn't dumb things down a lot. I'm sorry if you hear a lot of noise. My kids are kind of running around, you know. So anyway, this storybook doesn't add a whole lot, and it doesn't dumb things down. It's short and sweet. The language is written so that even like a second grader could probably read it on their own with some help with difficult names. But with my kindergartner, what I'm doing is we're doing shared reading. So I read to him. We do a story a day, and I'll read, but he follows along, and I pause and let him read the words that he knows or that I'm getting him to practice. And this is how I do shared reading, not just with a Bible storybook, but any readers that we use. This method, the shared reading and just providing the words that they don't know, has helped my boys to learn their sight words better than any other method I've found for them to learn sight words, to recognize sight words and to read them. So they have learned their sight words, I felt, quickly doing it this way rather than using flashcards or writing them out or doing any other games. Just simply reading and identifying the sight words, just saying the words and letting them repeat them. They've learned them really well that way. So it serves as some Bible reading, so he can start getting very familiar with Bible stories and basic layout of the Bible, but also helps his reading and sight word retention as well. Now on for our regular reading, our phonics. We're using Hooked on Phonics. He actually started reading last year, I think the fall of last year. So he's about 3/4 of the way down with the kindergarten level of Hooked on Phonics. And the reason I chose Hooked on Phonics is simply because we had it. It's what I used to teach my older boys to read. It worked out really well. It's a very simple program. I actually have a video review of it that I'll link down below, and that you can check that out and see if kind of how we use it, how it works for us. So it's a very simple program. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it's, I feel, flexible in how much time we spend on it each day, and can add to it if you want to. I don't really add to it, to Hooked on Phonics specifically. We do read a lot more than just Hooked on Phonics. He's been reading Bob books. I have a video review of that as well, which I'll link down below. When he's done with the sets that we have, I may get more Bob book sets, or I just may move on to I'll move on to some of the readers that we already have that I use with my older boys. So we always do some phonics practice and then read a real book as well. For handwriting, I'm using Handwriting Without Tears. It's what I used with my second son and what I used for my kindergartner last year for preschool. I love this program. I initially chose it for my second boy because it's a very well laid out program created by, I think, occupational therapists, and it spells out how to help your student, especially if they have fine motor skills, which my younger two boys struggle with that a little bit. So it's what I wanted. It's a very gentle program. I have a video review of that, which I'll link below. It worked out really well for him last year, so I wanted to continue this year, especially since what he learned last year in the preschool level of Handwriting Without Tears was writing uppercase letters, and in the kindergarten level, he's learning how to write, reviewing uppercase letters and numbers, and learning how to write lowercase letters. So I wanted to stay consistent with that. It moves very gently and slowly, and I like that for kindergartners. For younger students, really for any student, including myself, but for younger students especially, I'm a big believer in incremental learning and not throwing too much at them at one time, and just a little bit at a time, and then letting them review that over and over again and master it as they learn something new. So this Handwriting Without Tears does that really well. So that's why I chose that for my kindergartner. For math, my kindergarten is using the primer level of Math UC. I use Math-U-See with my older boys with varied success. My oldest is still using it. My second grader, I'm trying to find something different for him. But I thought I'd go ahead and try it with my kindergartner because it has this hands-on element of using math blocks that's integral to the Math-U-See program. You also get access to video lessons. I like that it's a mastery program, although the primary level, it really isn't about mastery. It's just about basic, understanding numbers and recognizing numbers and forming them in some basic math concepts. But I like that there's one video lesson a week, depending on how you use it. And then for several days, they practice what they learned. And then they move on to a new concept. So I decided to try that with my youngest. It does start off, I would say, more at a preschool level. So I almost decided to skip the first few weeks worth of lessons, but decided to go ahead and start from the start so that he becomes accustomed with the Math-U-See program and to ease in to doing real math. And he really likes workbook work. For social studies, I decided to do just geography with my kindergartner. The reason is because I feel like an important part of learning history, instead of just jumping into history, an important part of understanding and learning history is recognizing your place in the world. And I feel like he's a little young to really get that. I remember being 5, 6 years old, and my father was in the Air Force, so we moved around every few years. And when I was in first grade, we were preparing to move, and we were moving to Italy. But I kept saying we were moving to Iceland. I don't even know, I had no comprehension of the world and where places were or how different things were. I had no understanding of that. And so to me, moving to Iceland was just the same as moving to Italy. And that was when I was finishing up first grade. So for my kindergartner, I wanted to focus a little more on the world and geography in general. In the past, we've done history together as a group, but when I looked at all of my kids' learning preferences last year, I realized that group learning was not the most effective method for any of them. And so I've moved away from doing history as a group. However, since homeschooling is basically a one-room schoolhouse situation, and my kids do learn a lot from each other, just listening in on each other's lessons, and my kindergartner especially learns a lot just from listening on his older brother's lessons, he will still have history, some new history learning from listening on his brother's history lessons, and especially participating in some of the hands-on activities that we do. But for him in general, we're just sticking with geography. For geography, we're using Skill Sharpener's geography, and I intended to get the kindergarten version, but I don't know what happened. I had like a brain fart and got the pre-K version. After looking at it, I thought, it's good enough. So we're sticking with that pre-K version. And so that's what we're doing. And like I said, he loves workbook work, so he really enjoys doing that. For science, my kindergartner is going to continue using the Kumon science book that he used last year. I have a video review of that, which I'll link below. But he's going to use it in addition to interactive notebooks that I've used with my older boys. I like the interactive notebooks because it's a hands-on way of learning science, and they also give ideas for furthering their learning, going a little more in depth with their learning and processing what they learned through the notebooking page in their own way. And for kindergarten especially, I really like that. It also gives just basic science knowledge. Even just things about the 5 senses. Basic things that kindergartners need to learn, and which we assume that they know, but maybe we need to spell it out to them. So that's what we're doing for science, in addition to the Kumon science book and the interactive notebooks. I like to find science videos for them to watch that go along with whatever the topic that they're learning at that time. I like to look for like Magic School Bus videos. The Science Kid PBS has a lot of educational programming, especially about science, that I like to use. So I go look those up, see if I can find a particular video for particular topics, and I put it on my planner. It's because my youngest does learn very well through visual and spoken word elements, and videos work really well for him. So we do that over a period of days. We don't have just one day where, all right, we're going to learn about census today. Let's watch a video and do a notebook and page and then do something creative. We don't do all that in one day. I spread it out over several days because I think that going back to the same information again another day and encouraging them to recall what they learned the previous day and then going over that information again in a different way than they did before really helps with their retention. That's what I found with my kids anyway. So that's what we're doing for science. Now art, I don't typically cover art in my homeschool. It's not required in my state. And I think art is very important, and I'm glad that there are artistically gifted people because, you know, I like beautiful things. I like to see creative things. That's not the way that creativity has been focused on in our family. It's not a great love of ours in general, and there's only so many hours in the day. So normally I don't cover art. But my youngest, after he learned how to hold a crayon correctly last year during our handwriting studies, he showed that he is very interested in drawing. It's like learning the proper pencil grip really opened up this whole new world for him. He started expressing himself creatively by drawing a lot in an artistic way. So I wanted to do something for him this year that was related to art. So I found this step-by-step drawing book for him to help him learn how to draw different things and kind of follow instructions in drawing something a little more complicated than what he's used to. So, but this is still very simple enough for a kindergartner. They focus on the kindergartner or the student learning the different shapes and looking for those shapes and what they want to draw and learning to draw that way. If you're interested in more curriculum choices from us, take a look at the playlist I have at the side. Click on that. That's where I will keep all of these curriculum videos. I'm also going to do curriculum videos for my 2nd grader and my 5th grader. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click on that video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.